Hey, ladies. Hope you're doing well tonight. I'm not going to be on here long because it is close to past my bedtime. But I want to ask you to give a thumbs up to the video as you are coming in. Thumbs up, like and share. Subscribe to the channel if you are not already a subscriber. So, there's been a lot of conversations and discussions with regards to Deion Sanders and what is happening with him, and is he selling out, and he's leaving Jackson State and blah 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 blah. I mean, 4 hour, 6 hour, 11 hour live streams with regards to this. And I know you ladies are probably not listening to a lot of this, but um there's an element of the conversation. So first of all, I've only listened to 15 minutes of Ericka Williams' live stream and about 15 minutes of Real Dana's live stream. So I don't have a lot of time invested in this, but on both of the live streams, there's been a lot of talk about the HBCUs and what the HBCUs are doing wrong. And I am here to say burn the cape for the HBCUs. I know it's not a popular thing to say, but I have personal experience with the HBCUs. If I weren't sitting in the rooms when these certain things were happening with the HBCUs, I never would have believed it. I did not go to an HBCU. I went to a PWI, but I'm a part of this group of these very, I'll put powerful in quotes, military people. And one of the things that they wanted to do a few years ago was really help HBCUs. So I was in rooms with HBCU presidents and administrators. I was in one room, for example, where an admiral told me that he had set up for an HBCU president and an HBCU actually to get $75,000. $75,000 directly to the HBCU from some defense contractor. All the HBCU president had to do was drive up the road about 40 minutes to pick up the check. And the HBCU president told the admiral that I know that he didn't have time to go pick up a $75,000 check, even though these HBCUs are always complaining that they're underfunded and that nobody will give them money, and how they have to keep running back to the government and running back to this person and that person. Let me tell you, ladies, burn your cape for the HBCUs. Second story, I actually was in the room myself when I heard it. I was horrified. We were in a room, very high level room with some military people and the president of an HBCU that everybody would recognize. And the conversation was, hey, there are some contracts that are available and the HBCUs can get the contracts. We just need to put the HBCU president in front of the right military personnel in order to get you these contracts. When I say tell you contracts, ladies, I mean good high eight-figure contracts. Okay. The HBCU president sat there at that table. The administrative assistant that worked for the person whose calendar they needed to get on said, I'll get you on the calendar. You let me know what day and time you want to come, and I'll get you on this person's calendar. HBCU president looked at that young lady and said, well, that's not going to help us for next semester. So all I care about is getting through next semester. So, no, we're not interested. We're going to turn you down. True HBCU story. If I were not in the room, ladies, I never would have believed he had said it. And he said it, he was so nasty to this young lady that she actually almost began to cry. Administrative assistant of a very powerful man. She could have gotten the HBCU president right on the calendar to come and, hey, let's give you, I don't remember what the amount was, but it was $50, $60 million contract. Money in HBCU's pockets. I was sitting at the table when the guy said no. He was too busy. Burn the cape for these HBCUs. Hey, Computer and Coin, good to see you. Hey, Ericka, everybody, give the thumbs up as you are coming in, ladies. So that's my response about the HBCUs. We don't need to do a 11-hour live stream about it because it's not going to make a difference. What the HBCU should have done while Deion Sanders was there, what Jackson State University should have done while Deion Sanders was there. How does that affect your pockets? Hey, Dark and Lovely. You believe in me? Oh, thank you so much. I needed that right now. How does Deion Sanders' $30 million contract affect you? Unless you were, I understand it was Tracy Edmonds, that's his girlfriend. Unless you're related to Deion Sanders, I don't think it affects you at all. It doesn't affect most of the people on YouTube at all, right? If you're going to an HBCU, okay, that it might affect you in a way. I'm telling you from somebody who has been on the other side, don't expect much. They've been talking about trying to get the HBUs funded for decades. I remember Tom Joyner, if some of y'all are too young to remember Tom Joyner, but Tom Joyner was raising money, millions of dollars for HBCUs. If they don't have their endowments ready and together by now, burn the Cape, ladies. Natural Hair is saying, thank you for doing this video. I heard this story on the radio this morning about him. There are more pressing topics. Absolutely. Because when we say burn the Cape, it is not just in our love lives and it's not just BLM rallies. This is a burn the Cape scenario, ladies. This scenario has absolutely nothing to do with the impending recession that is either forthcoming or here, depending on who you're listening to. This has nothing to do with student loans that I have and you may have as well. And if the Republicans are going to screw up our chances of getting some of our student loans forgiven. This has nothing to do with the hyperinflation that's happening out there right now. It has nothing to do with the layoffs that's happening right now and whether your family is going to be affected by the layoffs. You're wasting your time talking about these things, in my opinion. So let's talk about some things that are going to potentially help you, hopefully help you tonight. I'm not going to be on here, like I said, too long. Those HBU stories. Oh, yeah. Look, I have more as well. And I know people who have more. I know people who are in the trenches of trying to help the HBCUs. And one guy in particular, he has a really big heart. He's really trying to fight the administrators to agree to change the way they are structured so that they can get hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars of research money. And what you ladies don't understand is that these major PWIs, they get hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars a year from the US government because they're structured a certain way. And what they do is they bring it in as research money. And that research money funds the STEM programs, it funds, operations for the schools, things like that. I know somebody who has been trying for as long as I've known him, which has been close to a decade now, to get these HBCUs to shift their paperwork so that they can get these funds in. They don't want to do it. Burn the Cape, ladies. Ericka saying, I graduated from an HBCU and this is embarrassing. It is embarrassing. It is. Don't let people tell you on YouTube that people have not been trying to help these HBCUs. I've been in the rooms. I've been on the phone calls. I've been on the Zoom calls. People that are high up with access to tens of millions of dollars per HBCU have begged these HBCU presidents on the phone with the HBCU presidents, voice to voice, Zoom to Zoom, face to face, to try to set things up. They won't do it. So screw them. I'm burning the cape. Let's talk about us. Let's talk about us and what's happening in this economy. Ladies, as you're coming again, please don't forget to thumbs up the video, share the stream, and let's come here, first of all, to the recession. Some of you feel like the recession is here. It hasn't been officially called yet. I'm reading a lot of articles saying that there's going to be a quote unquote mild recession in 2023. So, Bank of America isn't the only person that's calling for this. There are a lot of other analysts that are saying it's going to be a mild recession. Of course, when they talk about mild recession, and this is one of the things I'm going to actually let you listen to a little bit of what the Bank of America CEO had to say in an interview, they mean for the economy overall. We all know if you lose your job, if you personally lose your job, then it really does affect you. It's not mild in your household, but he's talking about the economy overall. So, the Bank of America CEO Brian Moynihan said Tuesday he's expecting a mild recession in 2023, sounding a more positive note about the state of the economy than many in the financial world have been broadcasting amid a 40-year high inflation. Doomspeak about the possibility of a recession has been coming out of the financial sector since the summertime when JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon said he saw a quote hurricane gathering on the economic horizon as the Federal Reserve began a program of quantitative tightening, sending equity markets into a free fall. Well, ladies, we don't know if that's going to happen. I think that's all that I had highlighted here. Yeah, we don't think a lot of people now don't necessarily think that that is going to happen. Yeah, it's saying mild recession. It depends on your definition of mild. Yes, natural hair, but that is what they're saying. Um, there are things that people are forecasting within the stock market. I'm not a financial advisor, so I'll tell you this. You know, I'm going to show you an article saying that people are expecting a dip of about 20% in the stock market. Some of you may have already looked at your stock portfolio and you're seeing it going up and down. I'm not a financial advisor, so please check with your financial advisor. I think it depends on whether you're trying to do a short-term or long-term strategy. There are certain people out there that can teach you how to make money in the stock market, whether it goes up or down with options and things like that. I wouldn't suggest you try doing a lot of that stuff until you know what you're doing. So maybe try paper trading first or things like that. Because a lot of people out here are going to be selling you all sorts of things that you can do in order to make money, whether the market is up or down. But if you are, if you have a long-term horizon on your stock portfolio, again, talk with your financial advisor, but they'll probably tell you to just hang on and ride the wave. So, um, Dark and Lovely is saying Kim Whitley is an alumnus of Fisk in Tennessee. She does fundraising for them, but they don't mention her on notable alumni lists. Just shameful. Yeah, unless she's asked them not to, which I would be surprised because it's Kim Whitley. Um, yeah, and we are putting ourselves first. Yeah, ladies, put yourselves first. Definitely put yourselves first. Okay, so I want to come and show you a little bit of what Jamie Dimon said. I've got to change this out. Sorry, not Jamie Dimon. This is the CEO of Bank of America. His name is Brian Moynihan. So let's hear a little bit of what he said this past Sunday on Face the Nation.
We turn now to the economy and the mixed signals about its future. Brian Moynihan is the CEO and chairman of the board of Bank of America. And it's good to see you back here in person.
It's good to be back here. It's been a couple of years. Last time was right when the pandemic started.
I know. I know. And I remember what a chilling moment that was. And yet we are still living through the implications of that pandemic. Your firm is predicting recession in 2023, but a brief and a mild one. I wonder when it hits and what a mild recession feels like for the average American.
Well, just to sort of be concrete on numbers, they basically picked negative growth around 1% or so for the first 3 quarters of 23, and then it comes back to positive growth. That means the year is negative overall, but it's just 1%. So you think about the recession, we were sitting here, we went down 30% that next quarter and stuff. So this is a more mild recession, largely.
Okay, so the first thing is he is saying that for the first 3 quarters, it's going to be kind of shaky. And then it comes back up on the fourth quarter. I've seen other people saying that it'll be okay for the first quarter of 2023 and then go down for the first half of 2023 and go down for the second half. We don't know what's going to happen. I'm just assuming that I'm going to be tight through 2023. Obviously, again, I'm not a financial advisor, not an economist or anything like that, but you may want to consider just everything's going to be tight for 2023, no matter what. Let's continue.
Because the underlying activity is still strong, and that's the tension in the Fed trying to cool down inflation, while at the same time not drive the economy into deep recession.
Mm-hmm. But when people hear recession, it affects their planning for the future. It affects their feeling of security in the jobs they have. I mean, just this past week, we saw a string of job cuts being announced at tech companies, at media companies. Is this the beginning of a wave?
This is what happens. And when you raise interest rates, the Fed is trying to slow down economic activity. And where does it slow down? First, the most rate sensitive housing's tipped over. Cars prices go up, although sales have stayed strong in new cars because they weren't there and they just have become available. But used car prices have tipped back down. So they're the most rate sensitive are affected by it. What takes longer to happen is the final demand for entertainment, for hotels, for travel is still very strong. And so if you look at spending in our customers, the month of November was about 5% over last year. If you go back and think early in the year, it was running 10%, 12%. So what's happening is consumers are slowing down their spending. They still have money in their accounts. It's starting to come down a little bit. They still have borrowing capacity, but they've started to use it. So all that means that the Fed rate hikes are slowing down the economy. The question is, when will inflation tip down and then they can back off? And that's the tension. So we've gone from was inflation temporary, which is last year's discussion, to it's real. Now the question is, how long will they have to hold rates here? How long will they have to hold rates at this level to keep the economy, to get inflation down without hopefully hurting the economy? And that's the debate we're going through right now. But you're seeing the signs in terms of job openings declining a little bit. You're seeing the signs of turnover slowing down in companies. And while those may not be good signs for the individual involved, it's actually good signs for the economy in terms of it starting to get into a better situation that it can grow at a more normalized rate.
Okay, so you all caught that he is concerned more about the overall economy than the individual, which, Bank of America CEO is going to be a Bank of America CEO, right? But he is also saying that there's such pent up demand for people traveling that now that in a usual recession, travel would pretty much stop. Right now, that's not happening because people had extra cash that they got from their stimulus money. They still have the extra cash. They still have additional borrowing capacity, which means that banks are still lending at higher interest rates to people. And instead of a 10% increase in travel, there's just a 5% increase in travel. Some of you are still in a good position, depending on what your side hustles are, your main hustles, to still capitalize on this. So everybody, as you're coming in, again, give us a thumbs up as we continue listening to the Bank of America CEO, Brian Moynihan. He did this conversation over the weekend with Face the Nation.
Mm-hmm. You're fairly characterizing all the different pieces here, but you do sound more optimistic than many of your peers, even those who are predicting a recession, like JP Morgan. They famously, their strategist said a category 1 economic hurricane is on the horizon.
They said that during the summertime. It's November, so let's keep that in mind as well.
what would move you from mild to gale force winds? I mean, how do we, what changes things along the way?
Well, the belief was when the Fed started raising rates that there'd be an immediate snap to the economy. The thing that didn't happen, those predictions were from the spring of this year, 22. What didn't happen, because the consumers remained strong and the amount of stimulus that got in the economy was so high, it didn't happen the way people thought. Unemployment is still 3.7.
Right.
They just had 200,000 jobs. So how could you have an unemploymentless recession? That's almost hard to posture, right? So that all the math and science that people looked at for years has kind of gotten thrown straight because of massive stimulus went in. So if you looked where...
So one of the things about the unemployment rate is that they finagle the numbers a little bit. There is the unemployment rate that we hear about, but then there is the underemployment rate and the long-term unemployment rate. My understanding with the unemployment rate is that if a person takes themselves out of the job market for a long period of time, even though they're unemployed, they're no longer counted at some point in the process. So again, I'm hearing both sides of what he's saying here, and I just wanted to interpret a little bit of what he is saying for you ladies. Let's continue. I'm actually going to move this back just a little bit so we can hear his discussion again.
Hard to posture, right? So that all the math and science that people looked at for years has kind of gotten thrown straight because of massive stimulus went in. So if you looked where all the guests you had on this morning talked about parades of horribles, the Russia-Ukraine situation, what's going on in China, those things all will change the basic outlook. But if they just stay, right now it's contemplated they stay sort of status quo. It doesn't solve, but it doesn't get worse.
Right.
Oil prices stay around $100 a barrel, more or less. They were there for 5 years between 2010 and 2015. So now that kills the economy on its own. But all those things going in a very wrong direction, you'd see a massive change in the economic activity.
Mhm.
And that's what people are trying to hamstring. In the base projections most people have, the Wall Street firms and stuff, it's all pretty similar. A shallow recession, with recovery later, rates stay a lot higher than people think for a longer period of time, meaning all the way into the end of 24, because inflation's harder to choke off because there's such underlying cash in the system. And that's what nobody's ever dealt with. Now, where does that cash come from? The government gave out a lot of stimulus. The problem is the government's running high deficits. And that's why when you talk earlier about debt ceilings, those are important things to not have create problems in the economy. And I think all
that's one of your
people,
worries for 2023.
All business people don't like surprises. And we'd like to make sure that we got through a normal budget process and a normal debt ceiling process. And,
But you're not confident about that.
well, I've been CEO for
political.
13 years now, and I've had some interesting times on this, but generally it works out. And I have confidence that people come to the table. There'll be a lot of discussion you talked about with some of your guests, but ultimately it has to get there because ultimately we have to run this great country because it's got 300 million people that the world depend on.
Okay, everybody. So that is the discussion that he had. I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you a few additional things that you want to think about. A couple of just articles here for us to kind of think about here. The first is that the middle class is getting left behind as low earners win higher wages and the richest see their wealth grow. And this is from a couple of weeks ago. So they say in here, the wealthiest of Americans have seen an influx of cash, while low-wage workers have managed to secure historic raises through bargaining despite inflation, creating a tight squeeze for anyone on a budget. But the middle class has had no such bright side with their income gain stalling. And that's on top of affordable housing woes, locking the middle class out of their traditional avenue for wealth building over the past few years. So, ladies, the middle is getting crushed. I've said this before. We've talked about this before on the channel. The middle class is getting crushed. Unfortunately, if you're the poorest, if you're making $15 an hour, you got to see, or $7 an hour, you got to see your wages increase. If you're the wealthy, if you've got it going on, then you have seen a lot of your cash and your cash flow increase. You've seen your wealth increase. One of the things that we need to do when we talk about leveling up, ladies, is we need to level up like the rich. We need to level up like the rich do. And what does that mean? That means we need to have 4 things working for us. And this is what I want you to think about this evening and throughout the rest of the year. I want you to think about income, cash flow, and wealth. Income, cash flow, and wealth. This is the philosophy of Black women making money, of this channel that we have here. Number one is income, high income. The different things that I'm showing you on this channel, the different things that you can do, whether it is a job that is a high income or higher income, and I'm not going to put a dollar amount on it. You kind of know instinctively what that is within your household. But you do want to have high income so that you have enough money in order to, the wealthy actually, I was watching Alex Hormozy, and he said if you could live off of 10% of your income and invest the rest, then you're wealthy. And his whole thing was, oh, keep your expenses low, blah, 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 blah. But I want to get to a part in my life where I can live off of a third of my income. My big goal is $300,000 income. I want to have 100,000 going to my living expenses, 100,000 going to debt repayment, and 100,000 going into wealth building. I do that for 5 years, and build up cash and cash flow. So the second thing is cash, your emergency fund, your liquid cash. This is how the wealthy is strategizing. They have right now, the wealthiest people have cash that they're going to use to buy what? They're going to buy businesses. They're going to buy tax liens, real estate. Real estate is about to, let me show you this article here. It's about to have a haircut of about 20% is what I'm reading all over the place. They're expecting housing prices to fall within the next 6 months. This is from a couple of weeks ago. And they say somewhere in here that they're expecting about 20% cut on housing prices. And you know who's going to benefit from that? The wealthy. The wealthy are going to benefit from this. Number 3, cash flows. So in the olden days, and I put the olden days in quotes, there was this whole philosophy of if you could just have enough money to retire, you put your $300 per month into a retirement account from age 20 to age 60, and then you would have enough money to retire. That system, in my opinion, I'm just saying what Cherie is doing is not going to be the way that Cherie in her mid 40s gets to financial freedom. I have to buy cash flow. What kind of cash flow am I buying? I need to make enough income so that I can buy businesses. That cash flow, I want to buy businesses and not start businesses. I want to buy tax liens that cash flow 10%, 15%, 20% per year. I want to buy other types of annuities, things like that. Anything that gives me a real base for cash flow. Some of you may want to buy real estate. You want to be a landlord. I have no interest in being a landlord, but you want to think if I'm going to say this, Cherie. Cherie is thinking about cash flow. If you know, hey, if I have no debt and I can get $10,000 per month in cash flow, I'm set. You want to think about that. And the fourth thing is wealth. Wealth is basically your net worth. Net worth is how much you have in assets minus how much you have in liabilities. So I want to have wealth with regards to I do own a couple of properties, paying those off. That helps me build wealth that's appreciating, other types of assets that I'm going to have. Some of them are going to be liquid assets and some of them are going to be illiquid. Illiquid just means you can't sell them right away, right? But ladies, we need to have all 4 of these things. It's just like if you were to look at your health and your doctor says, hey, we need to look at your weight, your blood pressure, your cholesterol, your vitamin deficiencies. I believe these 4 things, this is the true mark of somebody. If you can get these 4 things right, the true mark of a wealth builder. Natural Hair is saying, I just learned that in economic class last year, stay at home, homeless people, severely disabled people, and people who have been out of work for over 6 months aren't counted in the labor force. Absolutely. That is true. Wooden Core Real Estate is saying all expenses paid with a third of your income would be phenomenal. Yeah, that's what I'm going for, which is why I personally took a sales job. It is a sales job slash sales management, but there's no ceiling on my income. And it was the only thing that I could think of to do because I, outside of owning my own business, it was the only thing I could think of to do where I could make the kind of money where I could do a third, a third, a third, right? But everybody's going to have you're going to have your own path. Some of you have a really good full-time job right now and you just need a side hustle that brings in $2,000 a month and you can follow this process of getting your cash, buying your cash flow and building your wealth. And you may do it over a 10-year period or a 15-year period. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to encourage you, ladies, to really think about these 4 things as you are putting your wealth plans together. Okay, so let me just make sure. Oh, I have a couple more things that I'll share with you as well. These are just some interesting stories here. From Yahoo Finance, nearly half of Americans earning more than $100,000 now report living paycheck to paycheck. So, ladies, just because you make a lot of money doesn't mean that you are made in the shade. You gotta watch those expenses, watch that credit card debt, watch that. I'm discovering now a lot of people have very, very high car payments. Figure out ways for you to make enough income so that you can pay off that debt. Pay off that debt, get some cash flow, and move into a wealth position. Another thing, this is a website I heard about from the economist that I listened to, Danielle Booth Martini, I think is her name, dailyjobcuts.com. If you come to dailyjobcuts.com, some of you are very much looking at the layoffs that are out there. They also have things in here that talk about who's hiring. So you can see that as well, but you're able to see the different layoffs and um, different cities and things like that. So they do this here, dailyjobcuts.com. Another thing is, I already talked about the stock market. They're expecting the stock market to fall about 25% in mid 2023. Again, if you have a long-term strategy, check with your financial advisor. But if you have a long-term strategy, I would suggest don't panic. And then the final thing that I wanted to tell you was about the student loans here. So there's a couple of articles in here. The first is about the student loan borrowers got an email in November with the wrong subject line, informing them that their debt relief had been approved. The corrections are coming. Really, what's happening is the Republicans are fighting with the Democrats with regard to the student loan forgiveness, and it's going to the Supreme Court. They don't know which way it is going to be ruled or favored or things like that. But I know that I put my information in and I got the email saying that they got my information and, um, you know, they're fighting it, right? But there was a second article that I found here that I think is a little more hopeful. And I'm going to say this to you all. You may not remember this, but last week they codified same-sex marriage. The Senate agreed to it and the House agreed to it as well. They're codifying same-sex marriage. And I put in the community tab that if these politicians want to do something, they do it. If they don't want to do it, if they're all talk, it means they don't want to do it. So this that I see here, it looks to me if Biden wants the student loan forgiveness to go through, it'll be done. If he doesn't, it means he does. If it doesn't happen, it means he doesn't want to do it. It's not because um, the Republicans tied him up. Okay, so let's talk about if the Supreme Court strikes this down, Biden has another potential legal path. Okay. It says here, while student debt relief isn't completely off the table, the Supreme Court ruled on Thursday that it will hear arguments on the lawsuit blocking relief in February. There still could be another way Biden can get loan forgiveness to millions of Americans. They talk here about the Higher Education Act as an alternative. Some Democratic lawmakers and experts argue that the authority to cancel student debt has always existed under the Higher Education Act. Under the Act's compromise and settlement authority, it states that the Education Department can, quote, enforce, pay, compromise, waive, or release any right, title, claim, lien, or demand related to federal student debt. President Biden has legal authority to cancel billions of dollars in student debt with the stroke of a pen. Legal experts have also voiced support for the Higher Education Act. In September 2020, the Legal Services Center of Harvard Law School wrote a memo for, I think this is Elizabeth Warren, outlining why the act gives the Education Secretary authority to cancel student debt broadly. Ladies, Harvard Law School working with Elizabeth Warren. Don't let these Democrats sit here and tell you they can't do it. Don't let them. Tell them you saw this in the video. It's on Business Insider. And these people, if they want to do something, they will do it. Hey, Mocha Mommy, everybody, as you're coming again, please thumbs up the video. That's me. We have good paying jobs with our home reno and increased school tuitions due to school choice, and high taxes means low savings. Yeah, I definitely understand that. Young folks need to buy stocks for real. Yep. I'm a buy and hold girl. God bless. Hey, God bless. Saying exactly. Student loans need to be taken on much more by municipalities and the private sector, not just federal government. States can do it for teachers, nurses, soldiers, and first responders. I agree with that. I think that they already have the student loan forgiveness if you do those types of jobs anyway. So, and I'm a big fan of those programs as well. So, people just have to decide what works best for them based on the career that they have. So, again, ladies, oops, just come back here. Wealth building in 2023, focusing on 4 numbers: income, cash flow, and wealth. Okay. So, burn the cape. We talked about that with the whole Deion Sanders thing and the HBCU thing. Burn the cape. Focus on yourself. This recession, even though they're claiming it's a quote unquote mild recession that it's going to be in 2023, you still have to be on your game, ladies. Focusing on these 4 things. We're going to talk a lot more about these things in 2023. Another thing is, y'all know one of my favorite business podcasts is My First Million. And they dropped a podcast on December 1st. And they said, if you wait until January 1st to begin your goal setting and achieving your 2023 goals, it's too late. Again, if you wait until January 1st to start working on your 2023 goals, it's too late. And these are 2 men that have sold multi-million-dollar businesses. They've grown multi-million-dollar businesses. They're hugely successful. So it's December 5th now. Think about 2023. What things do you want to have in place so that your 2023 can really work for you? God bless is saying, I think in 2023, we need to see politics as transactional only. Look, I vote based on policy. Looking into the stock market, really curious about the financial advisor that mentions Civic Core. Okay, I don't know about that. So, yeah. All right, ladies. Well, that is it. Like I said, I told you I wouldn't keep you on too long tonight. Just wanted to come share some information with you, and I'll see you all later on this week. Take care. Bye.